Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Yes! Here we go. Follow the Money. Paulie Howard, Matt Youmans, big show coming up. Sirius XM Channel 158, downtown where it all goes down. Circa, baby. Having a good time. We'll talk to Paul Charchian, who's in town. He'll be in studio to talk fantasy, Vikings, NFL. He made a bunch of future bets. Jay Morrison on the madness in Cincinnati, trying to trade Trey Hendrickson. We'll talk Bengals. We'll talk Monday Night Football. And who knew? He's an Arby's fan. I can't wait to get into that as well. Do you concur? Win some, lose some, recap everything, and a great weekend of action with the UFC. Dominant performance by Chimaev. Good preseason action. Looking forward to week 3, plus college football is here, week 0. How you doing, Maui Matt?
Plus, we have a really good Monday Night Football game where we're going to see starting quarterbacks go head-to-head for at least a quarter tonight with Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels. And I have a bet on this game tonight, so looking forward to that. Jay Morrison's going to be on from Cincinnati, you said, in the final hour, and he's an Arby's fan?
Yeah. In his bio. Yeah.
Yeah. We got to ask him about his opinion of Skyline Chili. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember when we had Peter King on the show a couple years ago? And he loves Skyline Chili.
You brought it up. I couldn't believe the reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, he loved it. Absolutely. It was gold. For the first time during training camp, Stafford practiced today. You got the reports over the weekend. They asked McVay, we're supposed to work out Saturday. He goes, I'll talk to you Monday. He'd been sidelined, careful, aggravated disc in his back, and he hadn't thrown in a couple weeks. But he was out there today. McVay said he did a good job, 26 plays, managing the huddle, saw the field. It went well. And with good competitive work on both sides today. Didn't share the plan for the rest of the week. We're going to keep it a day at a time, really a week at a time. It's a fluid situation. Better news for the Rams. But still, you got to be concerned with what's going on.
Oh, you got to be really concerned. I've got a bet on the Rams over 9.5. Bet the Rams to win the NFC. Bet the Rams at 30-1 to win the Super Bowl. That was actually the first futures play I made way back in March. And if Matthew Stafford's sidelined, that's going to be a tough deal for the Rams. Now, I still think they can win. I still think they could win the division, get over 9.5 if Stafford misses a number of games. With Jimmy G and Stetson Bennett, I think that team's good enough to win. But the ceiling's going to be lower in terms of what they can achieve in the postseason if Stafford is sidelined and the back injury becomes more of a problem. He's 37 years old, which is not that bad. I mean, he's getting up there.
I got you.
Aaron Rodgers is 41.
Yeah, I know. But this is a problem. If it's because what's going to happen?
Back injuries can linger. They can be a big deal. And, I definitely don't like reading this. I mean, that's the downside of betting the future like that. And you find out in August, your quarterback's got a bad back. He might not be able to play. And that's a bummer. I did take some positives out of the story I read that Stafford – I think a week ago made 65 throws in a practice session, and he was not limited by anything and felt okay the next day. So hopefully that's not going to be a big issue. But you definitely are pumping the brakes or you're betting anti-Rams right now if you're looking to play the futures on that team.
When asked about his confidence level in Stafford being ready week 1 against the Texans, McVay, that would be putting the cart way before the horse. So I wouldn't even go there either.
Sounds like 50-50.
We're right around. We're getting close here. I know. Damn. Okay, so at least better news, but not all the way back. Also, the big news today, Stefanski named Flacco the starter week 1 against the Bengals. A couple weeks ago, he was $1.50 to be named the starter. He was a long shot months ago. So that quarterback room and carousel with all those guys that they have, and that motley crew, it's going to be Flacco, Bengals laying 5.5 on the road. So we have that news today.
You know, going way back, I'm going to say a couple months ago, I got a bet in a DraftKings. You know, we can't bet DK here in Nevada.
Got to drive.
So we have to find other means.
Go see Rudy Barrett.
Go
to A&W, yeah.
I took a pretty big number on Flacco to be the Browns starting quarterback at the time. It was 12-1 at one point.
Is that right?
And I got like 9-1. So
I didn't know that.
Right.
All right. Well, okay, just got to be out there now, right?
Well, when you're watching the preseason here the past couple, again, you could have bet a lot more on this the last couple of weeks. I felt like when you were watching what was developing in camp with the injuries, Kenny Pickett, hamstring. Dylan Gabriel, hamstring.
Yep.
Shedeur Sanders was not going to start. They were not going to start him in week 1. And Deshaun Watson's out, and Snoop Huntley is not going to start either.
Mm-hmm.
By default, Joe Flacco was going to win this job just paying attention to what's going on in Browns camp.
Yeah.
There was a great bet to be made on this even in the last week or two. I hate to say easy money, but that's what it was, Paul.
Good job.
Oh,
great.
I know other people who bet this and bet it pretty big in the last couple of weeks.
Well,
big being relative, because on a prop like that, you can only get down so much.
Well, we were talking about it a lot during the summer and a couple of our guests said it's going to be Pickett. That Pickett would be the guy, and then, the injury happened, and then it's just been chaotic. So Flacco,
when that
by
odds
default,
board opened, Flacco was set way too his number was way too high.
Yes. So the hot dog stand continues in Cincinnati. They're in action tonight. More on that coming up. But the big news is they can't come to terms, and they're not close, and they're taking offers on Hendrickson. As Bill Barnwell from ESPN.com reported, this is his tweet rather, the last time we saw something like this where a guy 30, dominant, gets after the quarterback was traded. Chris Dolman, 1994 to the Atlanta Falcons for a first and I think a couple seconds there. So with contract talks at an impasse, they're listening to offers for the guy who led the league in sacks, 4-time Pro Bowler, and see what the asking price is, what they're going to want. I know Elliott Wolf, Patriots GM, said, "You're damn right. If we can get a big-time player, we'll give up a first-round draft pick for this guy." But this is big news, and I know that the teams out there that would try to get him, but the question is, what's the asking price? What do they want? Will the team get this done?
Apparently the asking price for Trey Hendrickson is a young defensive player and a first-round pick next year. And, just depends what quality of young defensive player you're going to give up.
Or a couple. I read a couple. A couple players.
A couple players.
Yes,
it could be a couple players, but at least one. If the one young player is a stud, then that's probably just a one player and a first-round pick. If you're throwing a couple mid players and a first-round pick, it would be more than one guy. But, hey, look, Trey Hendrickson led the NFL in sacks last season, 17.5. The Bengals' pressure rate when he was on the field was about 35%, and when he was off the field, it was about 17%. All this is a bad defense with Hendrickson on the field.
Yes.
The Bengals have got to find a way to get something figured out here.
Yes. So let me go back, and I've read this a couple times, but now it's worth repeating considering the news. This is Warren Sharp's NFL Preview magazine. The Bengals last year were terrible defensively, despite playing the number one easiest schedule of quarterbacks: Brissett, Danny Dimes, Winston, Watson, DTR twice, Minshew, Ritter, Cooper Rush, Rudolph, Will Levis, Andy Dalton, Russell Wilson twice.
Wow.
And they still were that bad. The other thing is they lost, 7 games by 1 score? And what happened? And they could also say that's coaching and our guy Taylor, who can't get it done. And that was get off to a slow start. So everything you say, I echo your sentiments that you still had this guy and you couldn't stop anybody.
Right.
And those were the quarterbacks. And now you might trade him, and we'll see. Well, you get the first-round pick, but that's not going to help you right now. And that's why I'm down on the Cincinnati Bengals this year.
Yeah, I am too. And in fact, I made a MVP bet on Joe Burrow at 7-1, and I don't like that bet anymore. I got buyer's remorse because I was talking with another VSiN contributor over the weekend, Aaron Moore, who made the same bet, I think maybe a month ago. And not only has Burrow to win MVP become way too popular with the betting public, but Paul, I think this Bengals defense is going to be so bad, it's going to be tough for this team to win enough games for him to be MVP.
Yeah.
And that's why actually betting Burrow to lead the league in passing yards at 5-1, to lead the league in passing touchdowns plus 550, those are better bets because they're going to get in some shootouts.
Yep.
They're going to throw the ball. And he's got, by the way, probably the best set of receivers in the NFL. If Joe Burrow stays healthy, monster numbers, I think he's going to approach 5,000 yards and maybe 50 TD passes. Is that going to be enough to get the Bengals to the playoffs?
Yeah. 7 of their 8 losses were by 7 or fewer points. You can point to the defense and also Taylor and also the other coaching. Well, how about Al Golden coming in? Lou was a disaster last year, too.
Al Golden's going to help, but like you said, Zach Taylor is not a very good clock and game manager. Mm-hmm. And in the NFL, where the margin for error is very slim, you can't afford to make those game management mistakes like that. He probably cost him a couple games last season.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't lose that game against New England as well. Game 1 of a doubleheader. This is a 5-game series. Freddie Peralta, awesome. 3-0 Brewers, top of the 7th. That was Peralta against Horton, who's been so good. There was an error that led to a run. There was a home run as well. What can you say about the Brewers? They finally lost a game, but this run that they've had, and now minus $8 for most wins in August. I can't believe what this team's doing, and the Cardiac Kids and what they did Friday, down 8-1. And how about that bet? First 5 beat 8-1 in the second. They win the game 10-8. Now it's 3-0 Milwaukee in the top of the 7th as well. The clock's ticking. Week 0, college football coming up this weekend. NFL just weeks away. Now's the time to get VSiN Pro. Lock in your edge. New subscribers get instant access to both our college football and NFL betting guides loaded with team previews, power ratings, betting systems, and the best bets from our top analysts. And that's just the start. The morning email from Bill 80. Every best bet, every host, every guest. The betting splits, the market insights, the betting systems from Mackinnon, the prop analyzer, the dog videos, the tools, the data, the pro systems. Come on, folks. $9.99 or save 50% off with the annual plan. VSiN.com/subscribe. VSiN.com/subscribe. Zach Wheeler had surgery, blood clot in his arm, no timetable. Tough news there for the Phillies, but again, I got to know what the timetable is about this, the uncertainty that this guy just had surgery as well.
That's going to be a setback for the Phillies. Obviously, they just want to get him healthy for end of September, October.
Yep.
At this point, how about the Brewers? As hot as they've been, 14-1 in the last 15?
Right. Yeah.
You could have had plus 105 on Freddie Peralta at game time.
Incredible. We do, as Matt's right. We have Monday Night Football with a line move and a big move on the total. In the modern-day Marv Levy, a coach in this game tonight is 2-15 straight up in the preseason. That's next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Paulie Howard, Matt Youmans, Mitch on vacation all week. Paul Charchi at GuillotineLeagues.com. Friend of the show for a long, long time. Joins us. He's usually on every Thursday during the football season, but he's in town hanging out at Circa, and we're going to go rapid fire here in the NFL, futures, and also a lot of fantasy advice. Good to see you, my friend. And the last time we talked, Jordan Mason, most touchdowns on air, moved from 400 to 80-1.
Yes, you and I, Mitch, had been talking about Jordan Mason to lead the NFL in touchdowns, but there wasn't a line. Mm-hmm. We waited a couple of months. Line finally pops up.
Yeah.
And we start talking about him and rationalizing how he can get to 12, 14, 16 touchdowns in the Minnesota offense. And Jordan Mason's line during our segment moved 400-1 to 80-1. And that is the power of VSiN and this show.
Yep.
That happens. So you got to act fast sometimes on some of these touts.
Yeah.
And I think that's still a good one. And my favorite sleeper fantasy play remains Mason Jordan because of the touchdown upside he's going to bring.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
I love your source on that too.
Yeah, my source was Aaron Jones, who personally told me he's going to give up the goal line use and the short yardage work to Jordan Mason. So if it doesn't work out, don't blame me.
Yes.
Go take it up with Aaron Jones.
So, Paul Allen was on Friday, voice
Yes.
of the Vikings, K-Fan Radio. I interned on his show in like 1999.
Amazing.
It was incredible. What a story. But he didn't do it justice. Kevin O'Connell being mic'd up for an entire quarter. And you said they did this with Jefferson. Can you take us through just how confident you must be in an organization and a coaching standpoint to do this? And I know there were several tweets because they played the Patriots. New England media was watching the game like, this is unbelievable what this guy's doing. He's going to tell you what they're going to run, how it's designed, why it works, why it didn't work, who's supposed to block who.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And this is the second year that they've now done this with the Minnesota Vikings pregames, and they do it two different ways. First, know this, Kevin O'Connell, for each of the pregame shows, hands off play calling duties to an assistant for one quarter. And that's pivotal because, the assistants love it, right? So you're the offensive coordinator, you're defensive coach. You get a chance to get some play calling experience, even if it's just in a preseason game. And what that does is it frees up Kevin O'Connell for one quarter where he can just be open mic, riffing and talking to us, the viewers, as the game is happening. And that happened in this last Saturday's game. And you get to hear about the play that's coming, and you get to hear his reactions to it in real time. Now, he did accidentally drop one F-bomb on the air, and that part's unfortunate, and hopefully that will not stop him from doing this again. But they also do it with Justin Jefferson. Did it last year with Jefferson too. I mean, think about this. Matt and Paulie, you have a superstar wide receiver, and you have him mic'd up continuously for an entire quarter of a game, reacting to everything that's happening. But Jefferson is such a good dude, and he's so trustworthy, and he understands these moments that Jefferson's able to do nothing but bring joy to these preseason games in a way that you can't get otherwise. He's running up and down the sidelines, and he's cheering for his guys, and it's just Jefferson's just really a special guy. Kevin O'Connell too. No other coaches are going to do this stuff, I don't think.
It's hard to find a superstar wide receiver who's a good dude because most are divas, right? And they're, like you said, they're going to cross the line. All right, so I love this Vikings team, actually, especially defensively. There's a lot to like about it, and Kevin O'Connell being one.
Yes.
Former San Diego State quarterback, by the way.
Yeah.
What can he do with J.J. McCarthy? Can he do something similar that he did last year with Sam Darnold? Because a lot of people look at this team and say, well, I don't know about J.J.
Man, give him the benefit of the doubt here. I mean, what's Kevin O'Connell ever done wrong, right? He took Kirk Cousins to an entirely different level of his career, took Sam Darnold from being widely considered one of the biggest busts of all time into a spot where I think he finished second and comeback player of the year. And then even when Kirk went down, he was able to milk good play out of the Pastronaut, Josh Dobbs, and be able to get Nick Mullins on the field, right?
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy.
Nick Mullins threw for 400 yards twice.
Yes, exactly. I mean, what he can do with quarterbacks is special. And they bulked up this offensive line. He's still got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison once the suspension ends, T.J. Hawkinson, Aaron Jones catching out of the backfield, surrounded by talent. I just think people that have punished the Vikings win total based on the question marks around J.J. McCarthy aren't looking at the probability of success that McCarthy is looking at here. Through training camp and preseason, McCarthy's looked mostly pretty darn good, and the arm way better than people I think give him credit for.
How about the defense?
Defense the Minnesota defense could lead the league in disruptive plays. I mean, this is a team that led the league in blitz percentage anyway, and now you bring in Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen to an already explosive defensive line. This team is going to blitz like crazy, and Brian Flores does so many exotic things with this Vikings defense, pre-snap, after snap. This team is just going to go for disruptive plays all the time. They'll get burned sometimes, but they could lead the NFL in sacks, and I would not be surprised.
I like to hear you say that because when I look at this week one matchup between Minnesota and Chicago, I think this Vikings defense is going to give Caleb Williams a lot of problems. What do you expect?
Week one's not that far away. So already starting to look at the machinations of that. If you believe like I do that this Bears process with Ben Johnson, it's such a total rebuild. The roster is very different. His scheme is completely different. I think it takes time for Ben Johnson to right the ship. 1 week is not enough time. And, the Vikings come in with a lot of the same coaching staff, same schemes. Yes, J.J. McCarthy's different, but I see Caleb Williams likely struggling against a Vikings defense that's already faced him. And I think the Bears could be off to a slow start to get everything started. And facing the Vikings and all the exotic looks that Brian Flores brings, that is a big, big ask for Caleb Williams in his first game in this new offense.
So, buddy Paul Charchian in studio, guillotineleagues.com. Follow the money. Sirius XM channel 158. Paulie and Matt Humans. What do we do with Tyreek Hill in fantasy?
We're fading Tyreek Hill, and I know you're probably thinking, well, where was this last year? But here's the funny thing about Tyreek Hill. He was going off the board as a top 10 wide receiver last year. Ended up finishing as wide receiver 33 in fantasy football. So where's he going this year? Well, he's back up to wide receiver 13. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, why is everybody putting him right back up near where he was last year when he's 31 years old? There are so many question marks on this Dolphins team. Offensive line looks like garbage. Tua's every game threat to miss half a season.
Yep.
And there are apologists that are like, well, okay, he was wide receiver 33 last year, but Tua missed all those games. Now, let me throw some stats at you. Tua played 12 games last year. That's a pretty long, it's still more over half the season. Tyreek had 2 top 10 wide receiver finishes in those 12 games with Tua. He had 5 finishes as wide receiver 30 or worse with Tua. So even having Tua on the field doesn't automatically guarantee success. And here he is, 31 years old. Oh, and those big plays. We think of Tyreek Hill. You're thinking of those long passes, and he gets the ball, makes a guy miss, and he sprints to the end zone. Get this. His explosive plays dried up. Last year, in yards after the catch, he ranked 35th among wide receivers for Tyreek Hill. Maybe he's got one more good year left in him, but I'm not betting that. I'm out on Tyreek Hill anywhere near where he's being drafted.
Very
right
good.
now.
Very good. Who are you high on? If you want to say sleeper or not.
I'm high on Chase Brown. And I know Mitch has talked about him a lot.
Yeah.
He is a candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. He was originally, when the line hit like March, April, I think he was sitting around 50-1. Now he's around 22-1. I don't like that nearly as much for Chase Brown. But what I love about Chase Brown, second half of the season, they started throwing the ball to him. In points per reception fantasy leagues, from the middle of the season forward, he was the second highest scoring running back. What's going to happen for Chase Brown, potentially sitting on 2,000 total yards. He could easily come in 1,400, 1,500 rushing yards as the bell cow in a top 5 offense. And then you throw in 600 receiving yards on top of that. And now we've got somebody who is a fantasy goldmine. By the way, going off the board right now, roughly running back 11 or 12 in fantasy drafts. He's my running back 5.
Really?
Chase Brown. Love him here. And just keep it in your back pocket that he does have 2,000-yard upside.
How about the Cincinnati offense as a whole? A lot of those guys are going to be putting up big numbers. I like Chase Brown, too.
Yeah, I do, too. And here's part of the
How
beauty
do
of
you
that
draft
offense.
Joe Burrow in fantasy because quarterbacks are not obviously the most important?
Well, here's where Burrow is really tricky. Why I haven't drafted him in any leagues, and he's great, right? And his defense is terrible. He's going to have to pass all the time.
Sure.
The reason I don't draft him in fantasy is there's big 4 dual threat rushing, passing quarterbacks, the 4 of them. Then you get to Joe Burrow, who's going 5. But Burrow doesn't have any rushing upside, right? And that rushing upside means for the explosive runners like Lamar Jackson and the 3 others,
Touchdowns.
it's rushing touchdowns, it's rushing yards, and even when the passing game doesn't come together, they save you with their rushing numbers. Burrow doesn't have that advantage. Last year, I believe 41 passing touchdowns. Well, Jared Goff, going 8 rounds later, had 37.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. More with Charch up next. More fantasy talk, sleepers, disappointments, and he made a bunch of futures at Circa he'll go over coming up next on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Game 1 of a doubleheader, bottom of the 8th, 7-0 Brewers over the Cubbies, and Leeds just scored to take a 1-0 lead over Everton in the 85th minute. Rolling out with Paul Charchi and our buddy, GuillotineLeagues.com, talking fantasy, talking props, talking futures.
Fast food, too, during the break.
Oh, yeah, during the break.
Yeah.
You love
Smashburger,
Culver's, don't you?
Smashburger underrated. Culver's is a Midwest deal, right?
Yeah.
So they're from Wisconsin. I'm from Minnesota originally. And so we've been enjoying Culver's for a long time. The thing with Culver's, to me, it's less about the burger. It's just that they have such a diverse menu. For a burger place, you can get a dozen different things. You could go there every day for 2 weeks and never have anything like what you just had. I like that.
Well said.
You always give good
So
advice.
you say Smashburger is a sleeper on your list.
It is.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. It's the thin patties, right? So you get the double because you want to get the extra meat. But their seasoning on the burger, outstanding, and get the egg on top. It's Smashburger. And the other thing is they lean into the thin, crispy fries. For those of us that love
Damn
crispy fries, they've got one of the thinnest ones around. And I love that they just have leaned into it. And they're like, we're a crispy fry place. Oh, it's delicious.
Great breakdown.
Yeah, phenomenal. I like this too. You said this. If you're going, do your draft in person. This is once a year.
Yes.
Get the guys together. Stay in touch. I thought that was great advice you gave out last year. Do the thing in person. Get together.
Yes,
Get
fly
some
into town for it.
Yes.
I moved to Southern Utah this year, I'm flying home for my home league draft back to Minnesota. Go fly for it, jump on a plane, see everybody face to face. You know, you're not going to see them during the football season as much. Go do it in person and make it as special as it always was. It's just not. It's not the same on your computer looking at the countdown on your countdown clock.
I'm curious, for a guy like you, how many different leagues do you play in during the season? How much money is up for grabs in the leagues total in the leagues you play in?
I'm in about around 10 guillotine leagues just by themselves that I care about. You know, I do some mock stuff and expert ones that I do in the preseason that I don't actually play through. And then I'm in about another dozen or so that I care about, regular, normal leagues of varying shapes and sizes, redraft leagues, empire leagues, dynasty leagues. So too many. See, the problem with having 20, I'm not the guy out there like offering up trades and everything, because I don't have time for that. You know, I need to be, here's what I need. I need to be incarcerated with internet access. I need the kind of time you can only get when you're in jail, but I also want the internet access if it's not too much trouble.
Yeah,
got to sneak in a phone.
Yeah. Let's go over some futures. Defend yourself. JSN over.
Yeah, JSN's number right now is 975 yards, which is weird. As a sophomore last year, Jackson Smith-Njigba had 1,100 yards. Now, no team has more vacated targets than Seattle does. They lost J.K. Metcalf. They lost Tyler Lockett. Their numbers were almost 300 vacated targets. They have so many passes they have to send to their young star receiver that I don't see any way that he doesn't equal last year's number aside from injury. The only guy that they added was the undead corpse of Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp can't even hardly get on the field because he plays slot just like Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's not even a threat. So, yeah, love the over on Jackson Smith-Njigba, 975 yards.
All right, back to your buddy Chase Brown. Couple bets here.
Over 900 rushing yards. He had 1,100 last year. What are we even doing here? You know, I just told you I think he's sitting on 2,000 total yards, and 1,400 of them are going to be on the ground. So it's a minus 140 to go over the 900 yards. So you got to pay a little juice on that. But still, barring injury, he'll sail right over that as the lead workhorse back on a top 5 offense.
And Offensive Player of the Year.
Offensive Player of the Year also in play. It's 22-1 right now for Chase Brown, which I don't love that number, but it's still actionable. Kyron
Williams over 1,000 rushing yards, $1.10.
1,300 yards last year for Kyron Williams. And if you had any doubt about what his role was going to be in this new Rams offense, they just re-signed him for another 3 years. This is a team that uses a workhorse back, and he's that guy. And also, Kyron Williams is a pretty good back. Is he Saquon Barkley? No. But he's a B-plus back who fits that system perfectly. And there's nobody else on roster that's going to steal material work away from Kyron Williams. We're also taking the over on the 1,000 yards for Kyron Williams.
Very good. I've been a big Kyron Williams fan for a long time. I like all the bets you've mentioned so far. This one I don't like as much, but sell us on it. Bryce Young over 3,175 passing yards. And if you watch the Panthers in the preseason over the weekend, it's a bit of a tough sell.
Yeah, it was.
Well, Bryce Young looked great, to be clear. As a team, they didn't as much. Yeah. It's all about the line. 3,175 is nothing. Bryce Young's got the second smallest total of every quarterback on the board. Only Justin Fields has got a lower total. I mean, 3,175 is nothing in today's NFL. Bryce Young, through the second half of last year, on average, I don't have the numbers right in front of me. He was averaging right around 240 passing yards per game. It would put him at over 4,000 yards. If you liked what you saw in the second half, that Dave Canales offense last year, he's going to be even better this year, second year into this system. They added Tet McMillan, who looks like he's going to be fantastic. Yep. They're so deep at wide receiver, the Panthers, that whoever they have to cut as their 6th wide receiver is going to get snatched up. It might be Joe Horn Jr.'s kid. You know, this is weirdly, you don't think of the Panthers as being deep at wide receiver, but they are. This is going to be a good passing offense, deep set of receivers, and I loved what we saw from Bryce Young last year. And for what it's worth, the preseason game where he played like one drive looked spectacular.
Well, over the weekend, I think he was 0 for 2. But he only played 2 series.
I think you're
talking about week 1.
I might be thinking week 1.
You're thinking
right.
week 1.
I may be thinking of week 1.
Week 2, their offense looked brutal, but it was only 2 series. And I couldn't figure out why Canales didn't put him out there for a 3rd series. I just watched the tape of it last night. It was ugly, but that's just one preseason game. Yeah. You know, if you're buying into what you saw from Bryce Young in the last half of last season, You like that bet quite a bit. I want to ask you about a really intriguing player. We got a question here on Twitter, and I thought it was a good one. What do you do with Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter. First, if you like the game of football, draft Travis Hunter because he's going to be a blast. We're going to have so much fun with him. What he did in college, he is fearless with the ball across the middle in traffic because he's used to playing defense. Being in traffic doesn't faze him at all. And I love that part of his game. The real legitimate worry is he going to break down? Either because he's playing enough on defense that's just going to add to the chance of injury risk, or is it just going to be because the total number of times that he's involved in plays, whatever, take more hits. I can understand that hesitation, but he's going to be a blast. We're going to have so much fun with him. And I love the coupling with Brian Thomas. So you got Brian Thomas, your big-bodied go-up-and-get-it receiver. Then you have Hunter streaking through the middle of the field, so special after the catch. And really, this offense, if you believe it, especially if you believe in Tank Bigsby like I do, I love Tank Bigsby, one of my favorite sleepers. If you think Tank Bigsby is going to add something to the running game that we haven't gotten out of Travis Etienne the last few years, this turns into a really good offense. Jaguars are in play for the most improved offense in the NFL this year.
Okay. Tell us about Guillotine Leagues.
GuillotineLeagues.com, 3 different ways to play. It's the most fun way to play season-long fantasy football. No head-to-head matchups. Instead, every week, the lowest scoring team gets chopped from the league forever. Their players go to the waiver wire, and the rest of us bid on those players and create superstar rosters for the full season. By Thanksgiving, you've got amazing, amazing rosters. All you have to do is not finish last. So totally different way to play the game. Just playing to not finish last in any given week. It's a ton of fun. GuillotineLeagues.com. Play for free with your friends. Play for free against strangers if you prefer, or play for cash prizes if your state allows.
You have a recommendation for TV?
The Mortician. Really, really good, Paulie.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Did you like it that
I liked
much?
it. I really enjoyed it. I've just recommending it to my friends.
Three episodes.
Three episodes. Documentary of a true story of a 1980s mortician who did some bad stuff. And I don't want to say much more about it, but because it's all true,
Hold
and
on.
the whole thing starts.
No. Well, how about when he texted me? Boy, I didn't know what I was getting into. It's called The Mortician.
What I didn't know that it was a documentary. The whole thing starts with him being released from jail recently because he's been in jail, this mortician, for a while.
Yeah.
And then you get to learn about all the crimes. Oh man.
He was going to confess to murder at the end. I can't.
Spoiler alert.
No, it'd be all right. I can't believe that. He thought it was
really well done. Really.
Like the Jinx. Yeah. VSiN's exclusive betting splits cut through the noise, pulling real-time data straight from Circa and DraftKings. Track the percentage of bets and handle on every game across every major sport. You can make sharper, more informed bets. Start your edge today. $9.99. VSiN.com/subscribe. Get it now. You all love it. $9.99. VSiN.com/subscribe.
How about Joe Flacco? You buying Joe Flacco?
Love Joe Flacco. Nothing not to like about his game. Could easily end up leading the league in touchdown passes this year. Defense is going to be bad. They're going to have to pass a lot to, but as we mentioned earlier, he doesn't run. And so, Drake May end up outscoring him because Drake May is going to run for 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. So from a fantasy standpoint, it doesn't always make sense to draft him where he's going.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Paulie.
You're the best. You'll be his regular Thursday spot once we get going. MLB schedule breakdown coming up next. This team has beat their opponent 10 in a row. Coming up, VSiN, Follow the Money, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Monday Night Football. Bengals are 42.5 against Washington. Getting ready for the game tonight. Talking to Jay Morrison now, our friend at By Jay Morrison on X, Bengals beat writer for BengalsTalk.com. He's on the progressive guest line. Thanks for a few minutes, my friend. Let's get right into it. Do you think they're going to trade Hendrickson?
No, I'd be stunned if they trade Trey Hendrickson. They're listening. I don't know how hard they're listening. It's going to be a bad look. If they were going to trade him, they should have done it before free agency, before the draft. The day before training camp opened, Mike Brown, the owner, that's the only day of the year he talks to the media. He said, "We're not trading Trey Hendrickson." They can't be stunned where the market is gone. They knew
Right.
all these other edge rushers were going to get paid and the price was going to go up. I think they're going to lose the fan base if they trade him. You're essentially, I don't care who you get back and what kind of draft pick you're getting, you're punting on 2025. They did not fix this defense to the point where they can get away with trading Trey Hendrickson and think it's going to have a chance to get them into the playoffs. So I think he signs at some point. I still think it's going to be Labor Day weekend, and then he gets that whole first week leading up to week 1.
Yeah, it's interesting because what have the Bengals gained by pushing it out this far? You look at Myles Garrett getting paid in Cleveland, T.J. Watt getting paid in Pittsburgh. The Bengals need to pay Trey Hendrickson. You would think, how bad a situation is this defense going to be in if they don't get this done? You had a good line during the commercial break. You said deadlines get deals done, and you think this is going to get done around Labor Day weekend. Let's say he's not on the field week 1 in Cleveland. How concerned would you be about what was a bad Bengals defense last season?
Yeah, it would be concerning. And the thing is, if he misses 8 games, 9, it's somewhere around that midseason, then he doesn't get the year of accrued service, and he's right back in this same position. People forget he is under contract for this year,
right.
And he's due to make $15.8 in base salary as part of a 1-year, $21 million extension that he signed a couple years ago to add this year on. If he hadn't have done that, he would have hit free agency by now.
Yep.
He might push it and not play in week 1, week 2. We'll see. Their first round draft pick is the guy they drafted to succeed him, edge rusher Shamar Stewart. He's looked great in camp. If he comes in and plays, gets a couple sacks, looks great against the Browns in week 1, then all the leverage goes to the Bengals. Or if he struggles and the Browns somehow pull the upset and the Bengals defense looks awful, then all that leverage goes to Trey. And I still think something gets done at some point. But yeah, this defense, they have a lot of hopes. They got rid of their old defense coordinator, brought in Al Golden, who took Notre Dame as their defense coordinator the national championship game last year. He's kind of made a reputation on developing young talent, and this defense has drafted first, second, third round defenders like crazy the last few years trying to build this defense, and they just haven't developed them. They haven't reached for any of these guys. They would have been first, second, third round picks by other teams, but they've struggled to develop them. That's why Al Golden's here. So you have a sense of optimism that the defense is going to get better, but then you almost negate all of that if you get rid of Trey Hendrickson.
So let's say they get the deal done. What's your expectations or predictions for what the team's going to do this year, and if Golden can turn it around?
Yeah, I mean, I expect them to make the playoffs. I expect them to challenge Baltimore to win the division. I can't say they're the favorite to do that. They have yet to beat Lamar Jackson. Now, it's not like the Ravens own them. These games have all been crazy close. Yeah. Last year, it was a 2-point conversion in the final minute that failed, or else they win that game. Week 5 last year, if they kick a field goal in overtime, they win, and the holder drops the snap. It's just been all these like crazy close games. So they're right there with the Ravens, but they haven't got over the hump and beat them when Lamar's been playing. So I think playoffs is the baseline there. And then we saw it last year. As bad as that defense was, you get Joe Burrow and this offense playing the way they're capable at the end of the year, no one is going to want to face this team in the playoffs. So no matter how they get there, how that defense is played, if they get in the postseason, I think they're contenders to get to the Super Bowl.
What do you think is a better bet? Joe Burrow to lead the NFL in passing yards, 5-1 odds, lead the NFL in touchdown passes, plus 550, or Burrow to be MVP at 7-1. Would you make any of those bets? And if you could only make one, which one?
I think I would go MVP. I mean, look at all the votes he got last year. They didn't even make the playoffs. If he gets them into the playoffs this year, and if this defense is still really bad, he's got a real shot to win that. I wouldn't go passing yards because I do expect this defense to be better. I do expect them to get off to a fast start because Joe Burrow is healthy going into week 1, which almost never happens. Is a big reason why they haven't started fast. And so I expect this team to have leads in the second half, and they're going to lean into the running game. They're still a pass-first team. They're always going to have a lot of true pass sets. But Chase Brown is really something special at running back, and I could see them kind of, not throwing as much in the fourth quarter. Last year was like they'd take a lead, and then the defense would give it up, and they're just throwing every single play, trying to catch up, trying to play these seesaw games. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. So I would go with the MVP. Second choice would probably be touchdown passes, and then touchdown yards. I wouldn't touch that one.
Jay Morrison, our guest at by Jay Morrison on X, BengalsTalk.com, beat writer on the Progressive Guest Line. Follow the money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. What do you expect tonight, and how long the starters will go? And if the Bengals, like Taylor said, let's play the starters, let's get off to a fast start. Offense wasn't the problem last week. They gave up 34 points. What do you think happens tonight in Washington?
Yeah, I think the defense will play a little better. I'm concerned about the offense tonight. The original plan was to play the starters for a half. They saw enough. 2 drives, 2 touchdowns against Philly.
Okay.
I don't think they want to take any chances of exposing them to injury. This offensive line is in shambles. The top 4 backups are all hurt and won't play. So even if the starters get 2 drives and score 2 touchdowns, I don't think this offense is going to score after the starters go out. They don't have depth anyhow. And then the guys that they did have as their backups are out. So it's going to be third stringers in there. So I think this will be low scoring. I saw what the line opened at Bengals by 4.5, and then it dropped down to 3 after Zach made that announcement about only playing the starters for a quarter instead of a half. And the Bengals also have lost, where they have a 7-game winless streak in the postseason. That's tied for their longest in franchise history. They just don't care about winning preseason games. Mm-hmm. They don't typically play the starters long in these preseason games. I don't know what Washington's plan is exactly, but I wouldn't touch the Bengals.
All right, game. Good info. Dan Quinn 2-15 though. This is getting juicy. What's your favorite? What's your favorite item at Arby's?
My favorite item. I love their jalapeno poppers. I think they are very underrated. I just ran out. My wife asked me what I wanted for dinner. And I was like, well, we got the game coming up. I got to cover that off of TV. I'm not in Washington tonight. So no sense traveling for preseason games. So we ran to Arby's, went through the drive-thru. I got the regular roast beef sandwiches. She loves the ham and Swiss sliders.
Ooh.
And we're ready for kickoff now.
That's it. How about the curly fries? You get those every time?
I'm not a big curly fry. I like the crinkle fries they brought. I usually go with the jalapeno poppers instead of fries. Okay. I know that's kind of weird, but I used to work at Arby's back when I was in high school back in the 80s. They didn't have curly fries then. I've never gotten on board with them.
The crinkle cut fries they have there are pretty good as well, and they brought back potato cakes. You're a guy who worked at Arby's. It was founded in Ohio in 1964. Going way back, a lot of history in Arby's in Ohio where you live. Do you recall the pot roast sandwich from the early 2000s?
I do not remember that. I know they float these items out and see how they sell. They took ham off the menu for a while. Made my wife really mad, but they brought that back. So maybe if you start a letter writing campaign, you can get the pot roast back.
Well, I tried that 20 years ago. It didn't work.
Shut down. Does Skyline Chili live up to the hype?
So if you live here, it's kind of like beer or coffee. It's an acquired taste. I love it. I actually had that for lunch yesterday.
All right.
So
that's great.
I'm a big fan of Skyline Chili, but I get it for people that don't live here. They fly in for a game, they try it, and they're like, I don't get the whole crazes about. But if you're here and you grow up with it, it's just one of those things where you kind of start craving it every week or so.
Excellent. Great information. Good to talk to you. We'll catch up with you soon. Enjoy the game. Appreciate it, sir.
Great talking to you guys.
Jay Morrison. Good. Arby's snob. And,
he's living right.
Yeah.
Skyline one day, Arby's the next.
Yeah, right. BengalsTalk.com on the Progressive Guest Line. Can you share that story, what you said?
What's that?
With the letter?
I called Arby's corporate office 20 years ago because the pot roast sandwich was out. It was an experimental item. It was out for about a month or 6 weeks, and I went every day to get a pot roast sandwich. A lot of days I woke up, it was one of the first things I would think about, go to Arby's. And one day I showed up in the drive, well, we don't have it anymore. And you're just devastated. Sure. What do you mean you don't have the pot roast sandwich? You know?
Sure.
It's crushing.
Sure.
And I called corporate offices. I said, how can you discontinue this? Is the best thing you've got in the menu.
Sure.
And the explanation to me was, well, it's too expensive to make. Never brought it back. It would have been a Hall of Fame sandwich, fast food Hall of Fame, and they discontinued it. But I give Arby's credit because they do gamble. They roll out new items. They're not afraid to take chances, right? You have to appreciate that at a gambling network.
You got it, buddy. You got it. In Pocket Place, coming up next in the MLB scoreboard. Follow the money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, downtown Circa.